Is PS1 or SNES better at JRPGs? PS1 by far, man. Well, if we're counting Japanese exclusives, the Super Nintendo has a lot of them. I don't know how many JRPGs were released for the Super Nintendo, or for the Super Famicom. I think a lot, and we got like probably 30% only, sadly. We got more on PS1 though. PS1 we got like 60 something. I know because I made a tier list video on every single PS1 JRPG, including some of the ones that were released only in Europe, but not the Japanese exclusives. Even though a lot of those games have been fan translated, there's a lot of PS1 JRPGs that we still didn't get, over 100 JRPGs. But we did better. We did get about at least half of the JRPGs on the PlayStation. We did get them. So I think there's like 65 JRPGs on PS1 released outside of Japan. Like 65, I believe. Watch my tier list. But there's probably 20 or 30 plus at least PS1 JRPGs we never got. And I don't know how many of those have been translated. A lot. I can tell you some, like Tearing Saga, for example. PS1 got more people into JRPGs. Yeah, but I feel like back then a lot of people still weren't playing them. Back then, because I grew up in that era, you know, I was into the PS1, PS2 JRPG scene, and a lot of games that are nowadays super popular, like Persona or Shin Megami Tensei, back then were hidden gems. Nobody knew them. People knew Dragon Quest. People knew Final Fantasy. That's it, you know. And then Persona got popular, but that was in the late 2000s. But in the mid-90s, late 90s, early 2000s, you know, people knew Final Fantasy, Kingdom Hearts. People knew Squaresoft games, and that's it. And some of them. Nobody fucking knew Xenogears was pretty obscure, you know. And nowadays it's like super popular. The Legend of Dragoon was also kind of obscure. Nowadays it's like really famous. And yeah, you get the idea, right? But I feel like, yeah, I agree with that. Like, PS1 started slowly getting more people into JRPGs, and then PS2, and yeah, nowadays I'd say JRPGs are top 5 most popular video game genres out there. Who are some of the best and worst JRPG writers? Do you really need me to tell you the best? Like Masato Kato, Tetsuya Takahashi, Yo Haduki from the Grow Lancer series and Devil Survivor 1. Who else? Who wrote the Yoko Taro? Of course. How could I forget? Matsu Somashida from Shadow Hearts, you know. Hironobu Sakaguchi, let's give the guy some credit, you know. He wrote the story of Final Fantasy IX and the original Final Fantasy games. I mean, he's a much better director than writer, but he's a great writer nonetheless. Yeah. And the worst, obviously Tetsuya Nomura spearheads the list. The girl from Fire Emblem Awakening, Fates, and Engage. She didn't write Three Houses, and it shows. Fuck, man. That was a horrible writer, man. And I'd say whoever wrote the script for Time and Eternity. Fuck that person. All games should stay on all consoles. What do you think? Well, nowadays, because of obvious reasons, then yes. But on the other hand, not really. They could at least have some digital re-releases, you know. That's all we need. Now, we don't need fucking remasters for everything or remakes, you know. All we need for a lot of old games is just have them available on Switch or PS4, PS5, and that's it. You don't need to do anything. Maybe upscale the graphics a little bit so they look better on a flat screen, you know. But that's it. The bare minimum is all we ask from you fucking companies. That's all. Put it there for $5, $10, digital. That's it. No one needs... No. If Sega is too fucking lazy to remaster Skies of Arcadia, just put it there on the Switch. Port. I mean, maybe people are gonna be like, it is a half-assed port, but it's there. It's available. It's gonna be available, So that's it. That's all. That's it. That's all we need. Exactly, Datch. That's the problem. We don't need remasters. We just need to put the fucking game in there. Like Nintendo Switch Online shouldn't be an online thing. How about just sell me the emulator? I'm not gonna do that, but sell the emulator and with the games, and that's it. That's all I fucking need. No need for a remaster or censorship or bullshit like that. Just put the fucking game in there and that's it. The bare minimum. You can't fucking do that? Fucking companies, man. This this modern corporate mentality needs to fucking die. Ruin the gaming industry, man. Oh yeah, I watched the Mark Zuckerberg interview with Joe Rogan yesterday. I watched through the whole thing. Well, I kind of like... It was a 3-hour long interview. The first hour, great. I watched through the whole thing. The second hour, they started talking about jiu-jitsu and the UFC and the hunting, and I was like fast forwarding that. I don't give a shit. Dude, Joe Rogan needs to understand that. I know why he does that though. But he needs to understand that most people don't watch his podcast to see him and his guests talking about fucking jiu-jitsu or wrestling. No one cares. Well, okay, a lot of people care, but most people don't care, I understand he does that, those types of topics with his guests, to like break them down, to like catch them off guard, to like make them feel at ease, so then he can strike with the important questions. Like, I've seen a lot of Joe Rogan interviews, and they're always like that. The first hour is just a chit chat, and then the intense questions. And then there's like a huge chunk of nothing but stupid ass chit chat that I give I don't care about. And then the last 20 minutes, half an hour, or even 1 hour, it gets intense again. So I understand his strategy for interviewing or talking to guests, But when you have someone like Mark Zuckerberg, no one clicked on the interview to hear him talk about jiu-jitsu or hunting. No one cares. We all want to see him tell us what he's going to do with AI or about politics and about free speech and all that jazz. And that's what people care about. But you watch the interview 1 hour later, you're like, oh yeah, this is a great fucking interview. And then they start talking with jiu-jitsu. Like, well, we can fast forward that. So now, what's my opinion about that? Well, this is a super extremely rich guy, billionaire, not as rich as Elon Musk, but rich nonetheless, and he's always on the fence of many things. I mean, what a coincidence. I mean, it's just weird that well, okay, maybe I should give him the benefit of the doubt, because I know for a fact the US government, as stated by Mark himself in the interview, I know the US government, this is something a lot of people don't want to believe, and then they call us conspiracy theorists, and the theory turns out to be true. Maybe I never had a tinfoil hat in the first place, Me and all of those people, everybody knows the fucking US government does this shit. So his argument was that the Biden administration shut him up and threatened him, removing posts about the truth about COVID-19 and the vaccines and stuff like that, and suppressing free speech on the platform, Oh, they made me do it. It's they made me do it argument. So, while I don't 100% believe him, I have to give him the benefit of the doubt, because the US government is like that. It's been proven so many fucking times. Not just the US government, all fucking governments in the planet. And he mentioned that. He mentioned several things about the governments from different places. They're all like that. They oppress, they censor, they control, they kill, they threaten. That's what governments do. Okay, everybody knows that. You don't need a tinfoil hat. It's the fucking truth. So I don't trust Mark Zuckerberg, but I have to give him the benefit of the doubt. That's why Facebook got so fucked up all those years ago. And if he now promises that the platform is going to embrace free speech again, to a certain extent apparently, I want to see that happen first. Like anybody, any politician or corporate guy or company holder or a rich guy like Elon Musk, all these guys can make promises. Anybody can make promises. I want to see them fulfill their promises, including Trump, you know? They're all like, oh yeah, I'm gonna end wokeness and DEI and blah blah blah. Okay, let's see you do it first. Because right now it's just words, it's just promises. I don't care about your promises, I care about your actions. So let's see if Zuckerberg complies with that promise first. And maybe I'll come back to Facebook. Any advice on getting through Xenoblade games without killing myself from monotony? Yeah, stick to the main story. I don't know why I get that question. It's like people come here and ask that question to shit on the franchise and to shit on the open world mechanics. You can ignore them! I beat Xenoblade Chronicles, the first one, within 33 hours. Why? Because I ignored the open world shit and a lot of side quests. Do that. You can't do that, then if you can't do that and you're a completionist, why the fuck will you play those games or why the fuck will you complain about them? Stop asking those questions, man. Jesus. It's so easy. Stick to the main story. Unless something about the gameplay or the battle system or the story bores you. If that's the case, I have no advice. And what's wrong with quitting a game? If you're not enjoying a game, don't force yourself with it. Just fucking quit it. We have like 10,000 games available nowadays. It's not like 10. Maybe you grew up in the same era as I did, and you feel like that. I don't want to say responsibility, but you feel like you gotta beat the game, right? Because back when we were little, we had so little access to games. It was just like 2 or 3 games, and then the occasional rental. And you will go and rent a game, and you will have it for a weekend, and that's it. And you gotta beat it, right? So maybe you come from the same era as me. But it's okay to quit playing a game you're not enjoying or that's boring you. It's okay.